Welcome to the Brotherly Ballers podcast with your hosts, Jack Vickers and Tyler Herman.
Good evening, all. Welcome back for another edition of the Brotherly Ballers. We're coming in a little half week since our last one, just because we know you missed us that much. So, getting back into our regularly scheduled programming here, we're going to be wrapping into some Week 7 look-ahead preview stuff. We're going to do some start-sit and the burning questions that everybody has. We're going to talk a little bit about the NFC North, our own division home. And just a lot of waiver wire and injuries and just continued bye week avoiding the landmines, so to speak. So, Tyler, welcome in. Bring us into Week 7.
Man, it's cruising by. I mean, this is kind of after this week is the halfway point for fantasy leagues, because you usually go through like 14 weeks. So it's been crazy. Vikings got our bye week out of the way, so now we have to actually see if we're worthy this week against Detroit. So we'll see how it goes. Let the tests begin.
So you're saying we're halfway, meaning I'm halfway through the pain that is this season so far.
Yes, that's exactly right. We got all the fun stuff out of the way, and now we get to do the hard stuff. We'll see if we hold up.
If you aren't already, please check us out on YouTube. I appreciate the people on Spotify, but if you check us out on YouTube, you can comment and leave debates or questions or stuff for us to talk about, so that helps us a lot. Also, if you haven't subscribed already, it's a 2-second thing, and we're trying to get to 150. We're at 130 now, so we're closing in. We'll see if we can get there by the end of the season. As far as our first segment that we like to kick off, this is the one that we discuss for some wacky, crazy, interesting, odd, whatever you want to say, just facts and news stories in the world. So, Tyler, what do we got? I never get tired of that. I'm so happy.
So good.
I don't have a ton of crazy ones this week. I mainly just had one that I saved. So if you had anything else that came across, feel free. But the biggest one that I wanted to talk about, which I'm sure you've seen by now, but for people that haven't, just doing a little bit of bragging about the NFC North. 6 weeks into the division, I think it's been far and away clear to say that we're the best division in the league, which I don't know if that's actually accurate, because there's only been one inter-division game out of the four of us that have actually played each other so far. That's us squeaking by the Packers. But this marks the first time since, 2002, that all four teams through 6 weeks of the season have won at least 4 games, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's bonkers.
The fact that the Packers are 4-2 and in last place in the division technically is amusing to me. Speaking of the tiebreaker for that, the top 4 teams in the NFL in point differential, all 4 of the NFC North teams. So Vikings at plus 63, Lions at plus 60, Bears plus 47, and Packers at plus 41. Not only is nobody else a plus 40, no other division has more than one team in the top 10. So like it's completely spread out with the 5 through 10 as well. So pretty crazy.
I like it.
Yeah, I think it's like the division overall, whatever that quick math was, it's like plus 260 something, and the next closest division is like plus 50. Like it's not even close. So
yeah, we haven't played a lot of we haven't played a lot of divisional games yet. Is the big thing. So we all haven't started beating up on each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that'll change, obviously, like with this Sunday, which we'll get into in a second here. But just thought that was interesting. So I don't know if you came across any other fun facts and stuff, but that's all I got for us this week.
I usually leave that to you. So
no fun facts, only serious facts the rest of the way.
That's right.
All right, well, we'll just get right into it. NFL news-wise, the Vikings 60-second synopsis is going to save a ton of time also. We're off to a very efficient start because we were on a bye, so there's nothing really to say. We won and or lost to the bye. The bye is undefeated career-wise, but still didn't lose a game, so we'll take that. Week 7 preview, we are Sunday. We are once again not a primetime game because nobody in the world thought the Vikings would be relevant games to watch. We're playing at home at noon on Sunday versus Detroit, who is 4-1. So any initial thoughts here? I know we kind of talked last Friday coming out of the bye, but what's your initial feelings?
Yeah, I won't steal all your thunder, but I think you kind of nailed it with what you're about to say here is, I mean, this is the first true test, right? I mean, the team just put up 47. Again, I know Dallas is Dallas and how they've been, but it's a great offense and a great defense, and we really haven't played that. So it's going to take a full game, and we've only played half games so far. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to take a complete full effort. That's been kind of the story, is the tale of two halves the last like 2 to 3 weeks, really. So being able to, I don't expect us to be up on the Lions by any means. I think it's going to be a pretty back and forth, but being able to like if we've got that 3 or 7 point lead and like finishing a drive to kind of ice it is going to be the thing. If we can't do that, I think it's going to be showing that we're not in the clutch. So obviously the Lions, a lot of people just saw the news that they lost Aiden Hutchinson for the year, which very unfortunate, really likable player out of Michigan. So sucks for him, but obviously good timing for us not having to deal with him off the edge, because I don't want Darnold taking more shots in the ribs than needed. Obviously, like Tyler mentioned, the rest of their defense is very, very good. So I think the biggest thing is like, can we capitalize on them losing arguably their top defender and star rusher? If we can continue to move the ball like we have, hopefully the bye week helped with getting Aaron Jones a little bit healthier and Addison and Jefferson like having mostly full strength. So and then it's just kind of the same thing we've been saying every week, is just if we can get more pressures. I mean, the Lions have so many weapons on offense that can take it to the house at any given play. So if Goff has time to sit back there, we're going to get killed. So this is the time we've had pressure every week and we've had all the turnovers, but this is the one that like, if we don't get it, we're going to get torched in this game. So
yeah, I'm going to be really curious because again, we blitz at such a high rate, and Amon-Ra St. Brown is, I mean, obviously one of the best slot receivers in the NFL, but they have so many other dump off options with Gibbs, and Monty's obviously no slouch in the receiving game, as much as he's not thought about that. He's just not needed for that on the Lions, and we really haven't seen. I know Laporta had his one catch for a 52-yard touchdown, but we haven't seen a Laporta get peppered game. And I'm very curious to see with our blitzers if we start to say, hey, we're going to scheme out Amon-Ra St. Brown and we're going to shut down the run game and swing passes, and Laporta just gets kind of peppered over the middle, and we see that first real, hey, this guy is still an alpha tight end, because we really haven't seen it yet this year.
And you just talked about 4 different players, and we still didn't mention Jamison Williams on top of it, who can take the top off the defense. So like, he scares me because our secondary's played very, very well this year, but like, we're used to our secondary being our biggest weakness. And so I feel like it feels like a game where it's going to be a random, he's left open for a 50-yard bomb kind of thing. So, but even like you said, if we take extra safety help across the top to try to negate those deep shots between him and Amon-Ra, it just leaves less help across the middle for Laporta and for Gibbs with the little, 5-yard screens that he can take to the house. So I'm nervous. This is the ultimate test. And like, I believe now that we're at least a contender, like we're at least, pushing for the playoffs and a team that feels like you can win the first round kind of thing. But this is the game where it's like, okay, are we in the Detroit and San Fran when healthy tier, or are we more in that kind of like next group of like, they're all threats, but they're not really going to be the top 2 left in the NFC.
Right.
So we shall see. But then after that, we get a really solid stretch of some very easy games. So even if we don't win, I'm hoping we just, come out healthy, look decent, like don't get embarrassed by 14, 17, 20 points kind of thing. And even if we lose, I can take that because I think we'll bounce back well. So
yeah, we're favored by 2.5. I thought that was interesting.
Seems crazy.
We're at home.
I get we're at home, but like that seems, I'm surprised. I thought it was going to be even coming in at least. So
agreed.
All right. Well, moving into NFL Pick'em, I will let Tyler rattle off through the standings where we're at post week 6 here.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody had a great week, and it turns out we legitimately, between the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of us, there was only one loss. Mac, everybody got their 2 wins out of the 2 we picked, except for myself. I only got 1, so I'm the only one who lost a game. Mac moved up to 9-3, Jack 8-4, 7-5 for me, Joe and Nate, Nick and Foster at 6-6, and Connor at 4-8. So literally, I ruined what was the perfect week with my Tennessee pick, and everybody else went 2-0, and I went 1-1. So going into week 7, though, as you can see, it's a whole lot of the London game, Jags in New England, and Jack
2 for 2
of all
mine.
things. Is apparently just accepting the 1-1 to get rid of 2 bad teams. So he picked the Patriots over the Jags and the Jags over the Patriots, which, hey, touche. It worked for him last year. So he's going to go with it again. And then myself and Nick, Nate, and Mac are all going to go with the Jags over New England, probably simply because they are already over there and they played there last week as well against the Bears. So I'm just going to go with the travel fatigue for Drake May. And then a lot of us, obviously, as you can see, going with the Rams over the Raiders, myself, Nate, Mac, and Foster. And then a couple random ones, Connor with the Broncos over the Saints, and Joe with Houston over Green Bay, and Connor went against the Vikings and taking the Lions over the Vikings. And then Nick with the last one, Commanders over the Panthers.
Yeah, Commanders feels like safe one. I really like the Denver pick. If I hadn't already used them, that would have been where I went, just with Carr out, and they're missing Olave and Shaheed likely on Thursday night. So that's a sneaky one. Very, very consensus. A lot of people going the Jags over Patriots early. My first pick locked in was actually going Patriots over Jags, just because I think their schedule's even worse the rest of the way. So I'm very curious, because that's who I'm picking, just to see if it shakes out. But I did not like a whole lot of other options I had available. And Tyler was mean and wouldn't let me take the Rams twice. So what can
He
you do?
tried, guys. Let it be known. Jack said, I'm taking the Rams again over the Raiders. And
You're like,
I
"No,
said
you're
no.
not."
Tried to cheat.
Yeah, I was so sure too, and I'm like, oh, that's easy. Didn't even look twice at another option. I was like, fine, I'll double up.
Yep.
So, yeah, definitely, I'm not catching Mac this week, because he's got one of my two. I mean, there's no way to happen. But worst case, I'm still in second place after this week, so tied with one of three people at least. The Joe, I will say, the only other quick one, thoughts on Joe doing the Texans over Packers seems spicy, because I don't know that that's the week to use the Texans. I mean, it's
I agree.
Two high-powered teams, but being a Packers fan, I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume that he's trying to do some reverse juju of win-win either way. So, Joe, tell me if I'm wrong. Moving into the Minnesota sports season-long pick'em, aka Go Tyler Go, because I'll never catch anybody now. Through week 6, the leader's at 63. Tyler's made up a little bit of ground. He's up to 59, and I'm at 53. So just see what happens. It's a long season. I'm not trying to get too crazy with the spicy picks yet. I had 11 last week, so I mean, that's, I think, the high on the year, but just try to stay close and maybe gain 1 or 2 here and there, and we'll see what happens. So
yeah, it was a chalky week.
Yeah, definitely. As far as the picks for this week, I'll just rattle them off here, and then if there's any notable ones that I'm currently leaning, I got a couple of coin flips in here, so we'll see if I pivot. But for now, I do have the Broncos, like I mentioned, over the Saints. They're only a 29% favorite, or underdog, I should say, so that's surprising. I think I would have gone them even 50-50, but I'm definitely doing it there and hoping people go elsewhere. Already talked about the Patriots, but they're only at 24% versus the Jags. This is like that Raiders-Panthers game from like week 2. I just don't believe the Jaguars are good enough to be 76% favorites. So again, it's kind of just like, I hate both. I'm taking the underdog, try to steal points. Falcons, Bills, Bengals, pretty chalk. Packers, I'm currently going them at 41% versus the Texans. Kind of the same thing, but I just think it's one of those games that the Packers win. Colts, pretty easy for me here too. I'm going Lions over Minnesota, 61% favorite in here, despite being underdogs in ESPN. So I think it's just one of those that, like, will, you know, the ride has been fun with the undefeated streak, but we'll get kind of smacked in the mouth a little bit and then bounce back. And I can still see us being like, you know, 9-2 in another 5-6 weeks. But Eagles, Rams, Commanders feels pretty easy. Chiefs, they're only 59% favorite versus San Fran. I was surprised that one was that low, because San Fran's dealing with all their injury issues constantly and haven't looked like the high-powered team without McCaffrey. It is a Super Bowl rematch, though, so I mean, it could be a little interesting. Maybe the Chiefs finally fall this week. Also, Jets and Steelers, I'm pretty torn on both of those, so I guess I'm leaning the Jets currently, just again because the Steelers are favorites. I'm kind of just, if I'm stuck in the middle, then I'm going with the lower team. And then Ravens, and then lastly, running it out, Monday Night Football, Cardinals over Chargers. Cardinals are currently just 42%, so kind of the same thing there. Do you have any thoughts on those?
Yeah, honestly, I'm pretty in line with what you're doing. I'm doing the Broncos as well. Like I said, I'm obviously doing the Jags for that one. Don't feel great about it, but I'm doing that one for over the Patriots. I do have the Packers in mind as well. Before I even looked at yours, I do have the Lions. I do have the Chiefs. Andy Reid coming off a bye is lethal.
Yeah.
I'm never betting against that, even on the road. And again, like you said, with San Fran and all their injuries, Jets Steelers felt like a toss up for me as well, but they got themselves reinvigorated with getting rid of the coach, and everybody had a great game, and now they get reinvigorated again with Devontae getting traded there. Some fun breaking news for the day. So that was cool to see. So again, I think they take care of business against the Steelers. Always a tough game. I don't know. I don't know that the Steelers transitioning to Russ back to a starter now. Some more fun breaking news is going to be enough to get past the Jets defense. So I'm taking the Jets in that one as well. And then I'm with you on the Cardinals too. Playing at home, I just don't see the Chargers defense stopping them enough, and the Chargers offense scoring enough to keep up with AZ.
That's the biggest factor for me. And the Cardinals have had some duds, but they've mostly been explosive on offense. This was just the team that pretty handily handled the 49ers. So I feel like they're probably good enough to handle the Chargers. So we'll see. Moving into bomb squads and butt cheeks for the update. I need to pull up Alex's like current standings, because I got to imagine
sure.
like after the couple of weeks here, we're spreading out a little bit more. But
I can
my
see
team
what's updated.
went 0-3 again, so back to back after kind of a struggle to the season. The Seahawks are finally sucking like I planned. So I'm down to 6-12 after being 500 just 2 weeks ago. So that was a big help. This week I got some kind of interesting ones. My Seahawks are playing the Falcons. I assume the Falcons will win, but I could see the Seahawks kind of pulling it off in that division game.
Yep.
Panthers are facing the Commanders. Should be a pretty easy loss there. And then the Raiders versus the Rams. Again, I expect the Rams to win, but they both have kind of sucked. So Devontae getting traded away is a big boon for my Raiders pick. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I think it'll probably be like a 1-2 week, but I got a chance at 0-3. So 3 in a row would be real nice.
Yeah, agreed. I was like, I came a bounce back after a nice little 3-0. We got 0-3, so that was definitely helpful. Negate that. And so in week 7, I'm likely going to go 2-1 or 1-2. It's going to be close, but the Broncos against the Saints on Thursday night. Again, I think the Broncos can win that one. Giants Eagles divisional matchup in New York. You never know, and Philly hasn't looked great, but I think I gotta think Philly beats the Giants there. And then Cardinals Chargers. Again, I talked about it. Just think the high-powered offense of AZ takes down the Chargers. So I could certainly see myself going 2-1 in this week, which is, again, not what I'm going for. We're going for the losses, so I hope I'm wrong. I just pulled up the doc quick, and just to shout out the individuals at the top. Garlic right now at 12-6. He's got the Ravens, Falcons, and Steelers. So spicy Steelers, third pick.
Yeah.
But it's working out for him. And then Alex at 11-7. He's got the Texans, Bengals, and Bears. So I was actually looking really solid if the Bengals can, figure it out.
Yeah.
Everybody else is at like 8-9, 10-9. As far as the bottom, it's me at 7-11. Walters at 6-11, so he had a bye week in there, and then yourself at 6-12.
First place, baby. Let's go. Last place, whatever, same thing.
Yeah,
trying to take that crown back. So
that's right. It all makes money.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm feeling better now about it because I think the Patriots, obviously Walters has them, they're bad, and the Titans are also bad, but his Commanders are really gonna throw a wrench into that. So
correct.
We'll see what happens. All right, moving into some general fantasy talk now. We got another favorite segment of ours.
Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, swimming, swimming.
One of the OG segments, for those of you that don't know, if you already don't know, it's below 50% owned threshold in ESPN. Just picking anybody, whether they're owned or not owned, in any of our leagues. So just across the board. So week 6, Tyler and I think back-to-back weeks now, had both solid performances. So we're getting back on track here. So I had Caleb in the London game where they just torched the Jaguars. Caleb had, I think, 4 touchdowns and some rushing in there. So 28.6 for me.
And then I had Goff, and he did incredibly well as well. So 25.1. So definitely can't complain about that from a streamer that's under 50% owned. So
yeah, no kidding.
Doing really well. I just added them all up, and through week 6, I'm at 111.7, and Jack is at 111.0. So we moved respectively from QB 11 and 12 up to, if we're competing against each other, I'm QB 7, he's QB 8. If we're not competing against each other, we're both QB 7.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, it's like 112, and then Gino's at 103 below us there. So essentially, we're both QB 7 right now.
Just throw the first 6 weeks out of the window, and it's a race from here on. So
that's right.
Tyler gets first pick this week. So Tyler, who are you going with your favorite streamer?
I'm gonna play the hedge of the happiness game. I'm gonna go with Goff again, and just hope that means if he sucks, then that means the Vikings win, and if he does well, hey, I guess I do a little bit better in there. So I'm hoping he sucks, because again, that means the Vikings pressured him and did well. And if he sucks and we still somehow lose, I'm just going to cry, and we're just not going to do an episode next week. But I'm going to take Goff against Minnesota again, because there wasn't a whole lot of great options that I liked this week.
It's kind of gross. I was considering going Darnold just to go head to head with him, but I don't know that I love it. Whatever the opposite of hedge the happiness is, I don't want to.
Yeah. All the eggs in one basket.
Shrub the sadness. Is that
there you go.
I don't want to do that, because I'm scared that he'll end up with like a 10-point gain and we'll lose, and I'll just be sad. So I'm going a little bit less ceiling, I feel like, but I think a little bit more safety as far as floor goes. Yeah. I'm going with the Red Rifle himself, Andy Dalton versus the Commanders. I just think their offense is going to go. I mean, the Commanders' defense is very, very bad, B, though, I think the Commanders are going to put up so many points on the Panthers that Dalton might be throwing from behind by like end of quarter one. So kind of just hoping for like I think he's got 2 or more touchdowns in 3 out of 4 games he's played too. So hoping they just have to kind of keep moving the ball through the air a lot and I can get like a 16-point day. So we shall see.
I like it.
All right. Moving into ship it or skip it. I've got the questions this week, so I'm going to toss them out to Tyler and let you give the insight, and I'll just kind of fill in at the end here. But first one, obviously the news we talked about a little bit. There's 2 big breaking trades today for receivers off the Monday night game. Amari Cooper going to the Bills, Devontae Adams going to the Jets. Ship it or skip it that they both have wide receiver 1, aka top 12 upside rest of season.
Oof.
Not necessarily finished there, but that's where they're kind of going to flirt with now in the new teams, better quarterback situation, all that.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip it for more so the Amari Cooper side. I mean, I love it. Obviously, it's a major boon and a major increase for Amari compared to being in Cleveland. There's no question about that. But top 12, if you think about some of the names up there, I get it, but I just still think the Bills are committed enough to the ground game, and Josh Allen's going to take some of that volume. And as James Cook starts to get healthier again, top 12 just seems really tough. So I actually added a question onto this because I had something to go along with it. But just curious your initial thought on top 12 upside for the rest of the season as well.
Yeah, I think Devontae should get there just from the rapport between the two of them, though obviously he's got a lot more to deal with in terms of like Garrett Wilson and Lazard on top of it than Amari does. So that I'm not sure. I think Amari I'm a little bit more optimistic on. I was reading a few stats where like I'm doing this off the top of my head, so bear with me, but it was something like Deshaun was 27th out of 31 eligible quarterbacks for like catchable passes, and Amari was like number 1 or number 2 in the league in terms of like being open, like passes that like if it was on target he would be open for it, something like that. And now he moves to like a top 5 version of that. So like polar opposites of quarterbacks who can and can't get him the ball and a receiver that can still do it. I don't think any of the Bills receivers have really set themselves apart. Kincaid hasn't had the breakout that we all hoped, so I could see him kind of come in there, and Josh Allen's sustained wide receiver once before. So I would, if I'm putting a number on it, I would probably be like Amari's probably more of like an 18 to 20 type of thing, and Devontae's got that like 15 upside, but
gotcha. Yep, I agreed, and that's kind of exactly where I was going with that. So I just put together a few, and I just looked at kind of some rest of season rankings for some individuals just to see kind of where Amari would fall for you. So just do a fun, quick little name game with Amari Cooper. So I know Jack likes these.
I love games.
All right, so quick little name game: Amari Cooper, rest of season for these individuals. Amari Cooper or Chris Godwin?
Oh God, Amari Cooper.
Whoa, okay, that is not what I was expecting. So I should have started in the middle. That's crazy.
Unless we're going like full PPR, I think I'm going Amari.
Yeah, fair
Cooper.
Enough.
That's my only thought. I think Godwin's a big target guy, but I don't think he's got the scoring upside.
Okay, now I'm real curious about the rest of these. So Amari Cooper or Drake London?
Drake London.
Okay, interesting. Amari or DK?
Oh, I think DK is due for positive touchdown regression, so I'm going to go DK.
Okay. Amari or Diggs? Now that Nico's out on IR as well.
Yeah, that's so tough because I think the 4 weeks could get Diggs up there. That one I'll go back to Amari Cooper.
Okay. I'll do 2 more. Amari or Jaden Reed?
Amari. I'll go Amari.
Okay, and then last one would be Amari or Ayuk.
Oh God, that makes me sad because I want him to do so much better. I think I'll still go Amari because Ayuk just looks kind of like he still needed that training camp more than he should, and I don't think it's going to help him when McCaffrey comes back. So, yeah,
that would for you that would put him right around like wide receiver like 11. For rest of season rankings. So I was like up there. So I was surprised. Godwin for rest of season rankings for like a half PPR was wide receiver 5. I was like, that seemed really high.
I know he's like 1 or 2.
When I started there.
Just don't. It still isn't sustainable. He's the Vikings of fantasy receivers right now, where I don't know how it's happening. I think the volume will be there. I just don't think he's going to have much for touchdowns. He's probably not going to have a ton of 100-yard games. It's just going to be like consistently 5 to 7 catches for like 60 to 70 yards. I think he'll get there consistency, but I just think that he's not going to have the big explosive games like he's kind of started out. So
yeah, totally fair.
Tough,
and last one, just since it was right there. So straight up, would you go Amari or Devontae?
I think I still go Devontae now with the upgrade and the quarterback relationship.
Sure. Yeah, he was listed as wide receiver 14. Ayuk was 13, Diggs was 12, and DK was 10. So I think you essentially slot him right in that 11 to 13 range.
Yeah, that seems. I mean, yeah, I guess I would just bump Devontae also up. What was Amari listed at for the rest of the season now?
Like 24.
Yeah, I think I'm higher than him on that, or higher on him than that. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw anywhere from wide receiver 21 down to wide receiver 27 the rest of season, and that felt kind of low.
I feel like,
and that was after the trade. I made sure to look at updated ones. It didn't say Browns anymore. It was like wide receiver 34 to 37 on that. But yeah, with the Bills, they were still at like tail end wide receiver, back end wide receiver 2, and it felt like a more solid wide receiver 2 to me.
Yeah, I was like, maybe I'm more of an Amari Cooper guy than I thought for this situation, or like just that he's a trade target for me.
That's why I was curious.
Non-injury related wise, I would be stunned, like floored, if he doesn't finish wide receiver 2 easily rest of season, like we started from today on. So
sure.
I like that though. That was fun. We should do more name game stuff because that makes you think, because it's easy to be like, oh, he's a top 10, but then you're like, okay, well, what about these other 10 guys?
A lot of good wide receivers.
Yeah. So less fun ones, but okay. Speaking of the NFC North domination earlier, 3 teams in the NFC North make the playoffs this year.
Whew, that's hard, just because
I won't make you even pick, because I don't know. It could be any combo of the 3, but
could be any of them. Hard.
It could even be
I'm going to say, I'm going to say skip it, and I don't have a reason why, just because I feel like one or two of the teams is going to crumble. It's really hard to send 3 teams because, again, you beat up on each other so much that's already automatic wins and losses within the division. It's really hard to send 3 teams to the playoffs. So I'm going to say skip it, but I don't have a good reason why.
I mean, it is tough because then you're assuming, obviously, the other 3 divisions each get 1, but that means that only one other team is coming out of those. So, like, right now as it stands, like, I mean, like Washington or Philly, one of them is missing. Atlanta or Tampa, one of them is missing. San Fran, I mean, nobody else in that division is probably making it. But like, basically, you're like eliminating 2 of those teams, like Washington, Philly, Atlanta, and Tampa, and that would be tough versus like saying the Bears fall off or something.
Agreed.
So, I'll ship it just because it's easy to say with everybody's records wise. I just can't imagine the Packers missing. I can see the Bears faltering because it's new regime, new everything like that. I don't think they'll sustain it, but I think the Packers are better than even what they're currently playing as. So
I agree.
Speaking of NFC teams, Cowboys will straight up miss the playoffs. 3-3 for context.
Man, I mean, I feel like I have to ship it simply because of how good Washington looks, and we just talked about how hard it is to send 3 teams, and I think Philly turns it around, and the Cowboys schedule does not get any easier. Like they turn around and they play the 49ers, and then they play the Falcons on the road, who have looked good, and then they play the Eagles, and then they play the Texans, and then they play the Commanders. Like, you can get through the end of the stretch, and the Cowboys are 4-8. Like, there is certainly a scenario where that happens. Their schedule does them no favors. Yeah. And again, obviously the Commanders turning everything around is a big shock to the NFC East. So I'm going to say ship it. I just don't see them turning it around enough, and their defense is just absolutely soft.
Yeah, the injuries are hurting, obviously, with Mike out and everything. True. Their offenses look just off. Like, Dak's not getting it to CD as much as anybody would have expected. The emergence of the Commanders looking so good to me, it feels like that's going to be a division where maybe only one team makes it out of, because they're all going to beat each other up, and having to go through not just the Eagles, which I think I would have preseason leaned Cowboys over Eagles, but now the emergence of the Commanders too, it just makes it that much tougher. So, I mean, they started out really slow last year, and then Dak came on fire. So, I mean, it can change, but I'm going to go skip it or ship it as of now. They miss. So, and then lastly, with the news Tyler talked about a little bit ago, but Russell Wilson, reports are that they're giving him the reps and trending to have him start this coming week. So, nothing to do with fantasy wise, but Russell Wilson gives the Steelers a better chance at winning than Justin Fields.
I gotta skip that, and simply for the mobility reason, Justin Fields has shown his ability to get out of the pocket, to step up in the pocket and run, and Russ just doesn't have that in his repertoire anymore. I'm not saying he didn't before, but Justin Fields' athleticism, even with his potential lack of accuracy in certain other areas, he can make up for it with that. And so the mobility keeps drives going and whatnot. At the end of the day, they're going to go as far as their defense brings them. Neither of these quarterbacks is going to be like, hey, this is the reason they won the game. But Justin Fields can extend drives enough and give their defense more rest, in my opinion, than Russell Wilson can. So I'm going to say skip it. I think I'd rather have Justin Fields. So I was very surprised by this decision when they're 4-2.
Yeah, that's for me. I think I'm maybe more a little bit split on the two. I can see the argument for like, I obviously like you. I agree that neither one of them is going to make a huge impact, but I think of the two, maybe football wise, I'm a little bit higher on Russ just from a standpoint of like I believe in his passing more. So like Fields like electric wise, game breaking, but I think he's got 2 games where he broke 150 yards this year out of 6. So I mean like. The defense is keeping him in it for sure, but if there's ever like a high-powered offense, I don't know that I believe Fields can put up enough points to matter, whereas I probably don't think Russ can either. But I at least believe that he can throw a little bit more and like maybe just opens that up somewhat for them. So
sure.
Either way, it's defense is going to keep him above 500 once again, but more to your point, I just was also surprised. Like they're out to 4-2, and they like he's looked at least competent, much better than most people thought he would. So I'm surprised that you're making the switch now because I thought I would have taken a blow up game for him or them to start slipping a couple of games that they should have won. But I feel like they've won every game they should have and a couple that they shouldn't have. So like,
correct.
I just am surprised to go away that quickly. It's not like you're paying Russ. The Broncos are still paying him, so like you don't have any allegiance to him. So I feel for Fields. I hope he gets the chance back again, but.
Yeah, agreed. I think, and I heard somebody else say this too. I can't remember who it was as I was watching today. It feels like Tomlin is just giving him the veteran respect. It was like, you came in here. I told you were the starter. You didn't do anything to lose the job. You've just been injured. So here's your opportunity. And I feel like it's going to be a shorter leash, exactly to your point, than a lot of people thought, but they're giving him the opportunity because they brought him in to be the starter. He didn't lose it. He didn't get injured during play, and Fields just took over and never looked back a la Tom Brady. It's just we have no idea what Russ looks like with this team because he never had the opportunity. So here's your chance, veteran. Here's that respect, but we're keeping an eye on you.
On that note, too, any chance that they start doing maybe more of like a flipping back and forth multiple times, or do you think this is Russ's until or unless he loses it and then it's Fields rest of the way? Like, could we see like this week it's gonna be Fields, this week it's gonna be Russ, like
a la Saints Taysom Hill style,
or even like Brady Michigan, like well, this is our starter this half and this is our starter this half, or drives or whatever, because they're so different. Like I feel like Fields you're going more the scrambling, Russ you're gonna do more of the at this stage like the pocket passing, so it's tough to. Not just for those two, but to like switch your entire offense in a sense at this point.
Yeah, I would say they're probably going to stick to one. I just feel like Tomlin's a little bit more old school when it comes to something like that. He's more the traditional guy that he's going to let somebody get in a rhythm. I don't feel like I could see somebody like a McVay or somebody or a Shanahan who is a little bit more
getting fancy modern.
New age modern. Yeah, exactly. Going into that where it's an old school. Hey, we play defense and we run the ball. And it's just kind of how the Steelers have always been. So I think he sticks to one guy and just makes his ultimate decision.
Fair. All right. Well, we'll see what happens here.
Cool.
Moving into another segment, I'll let Tyler take it away here.
Let's do it.
Suit up. Where's your suit?
That's why. Now sit down and shut up.
Diamond suited up.
Give me your seat now!
Where's my super suit?
Oh, God. That's so great.
I'm glad you like it because that took way too long to put together.
It makes me now every week want to be like, pick one of your 5 or 6 that you bring up and call it my diamond suit or my super suit of the week and be like, I'm locked in.
I was actually going to mention that too, is of all these, or if you get to the end of it and it's like, hey, this is my stamp for the week. This is my diamond suited up.
Yeah. All right. I'm doing it. What do we got? I haven't looked at these again, so I'm going to go blind.
Awesome. I'll go relatively quickly with these ones because there wasn't a lot of interesting ones that I liked. It felt like everybody was pretty stampy, like I'm playing this guy or I'm not. So I try to get some fringy ones for you, or ones that have recently kind of broken out. Do we really trust it? So the first one for you, we've seen it now. Najee had a great game finally. Playing against the Jets this week. Finally had a good week, 20.2. Are you rolling him out again? Jalen Warren starting to get a little bit more healthy. But again, obvious, great Jets defense.
Yeah, that's tough because I also feel like I expect the Jets to lead. Not that their offense has been amazing, but I mean, it doesn't hurt injecting Devontae Adams. So I don't know that it's going to be a real ground and pound type of game. And Najee's just that like inefficient year after year, but he somehow manages to get the volume even when they have another option that's better. So I don't feel great. Getting the 20.2 week, I feel like it's going to be one of those where people are like, oh, I can flex him this week. And I think I'll be disappointed more than I'm going to be happy. So maybe he gets a touchdown, but I think this is probably going to be another one of those typical Jets games on top of Steelers games. That's just like the 17, 14, 20 to 17 type of thing. So I'm probably out if I have any kind of other option at this point.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I thought it was really interesting, but on the year he's RB 23, and I'm like, I just wasn't expecting that. So, but sorry, Najee, Jack has spoken.
Now sit down and shut up.
Next one for you, obviously a more fun name, some youthful intrigue in here. We've done it before, but Bucky Irvin, now that he's the official starter with Rashad out. But going against Baltimore this week. He was a baller last week, 14 for 81 and a touchdown, had 2 catches as well. Justin Bucky against Baltimore.
Yeah, it's tough because it's not the defense you want to go against. And then Sean Tucker blew up also. So now we got like a 1-2 punch that we don't even need Rashad White for. So I think it's going to be tough. I think if either of them are going to be startable, which not that you're probably starting Sean Tucker in most leagues, but if either of them are going to be usable, it's going to probably come from the receiving game. And Irving has that ability. He hasn't been used a ton in the receiving game this year, but like he's got that breakaway speed. So I think just because of the state of the running back area and room overall right now, it's tough to have a lot of other options. And I think expectations are probably tempered versus Baltimore, but offense in Tampa Bay has enough firepower to keep up with them somewhat throughout it. So I think the chance of a little bit more receiving work makes me interested in like half PPR and full PPR, and the fact that he has the ability to take it to the house. So I'm not like sky high expectations like I have been in other weeks, but I am in starting him as like a low running back too.
Suit up!
Nice. I'm with you.
Neither of these I feel good about so far. So
I know these were the really some of the only interesting ones I could find for the week. Last one for running back, and then we'll switch over to receivers. Just because I need to hear you say it.
No, don't you do this to me.
Alexander Mattinson versus the Rams. My man is getting all the work. Side note, told you, Zamir owners, please don't draft him. He was benchable. He's droppable. So don't worry about that.
Round, just like Madison was the year before. Like, why?
Agreed. It just didn't make sense. Anyway, back to it. Alexander Mattinson versus the Los Angeles Rams this week. Getting all the work. Looks good. 13.4, 6, 10.1, 17.5 the last 4 weeks. Suit him up or sit him down versus the Rams.
I'm trying not to have like my bias here take in. I still don't think that I believe in it, even against an okay, not great Rams defense, just because the Raiders basically have signaled like we're getting rid of Devontae too. Like we're not going to be able to be putting up a whole lot of threat offensively. I'm picking the Rams to win decently handily here. So I think the Raiders will be behind in the game. It's really the question of whether Madison gets receiving work, and he's done really well at that. So that's where I kind of like, it's the same thing as Bucky, where it's like, I think he's going to struggle on the ground. Like the last 4 weeks, he's got 2.3 yards a carry, 2.5, 2.3. Like he's just getting stuffed, and it's just kind of lucking into volume or maybe a touchdown. But the receiving work, he's got like 3 catches, 5 catches. Like he's getting work there. So I think it's not the worst thing in the world if you start him as a flex. I would be totally fine against my moral code putting him in. So I'm okay with a mini suit up this week.
You heard him. Jack is officially an Alexander Mattinson fan, and he loves him. Stick him in all your lineups. And if you're wrong, blame Jack.
Suit up!
Matt, if you're listening,
That
Matt
was so
Callahan,
fun.
please don't judge me.
That was awesome. That was a
I
fun
tilted
little
back and
inside
forth
joke.
during that decision. I was like, yeah, well, there's a point here.
I love it. All right, over to receivers. With the transition to Mr. Russell Wilson, are you more confident in Mr. George Pickens again versus the Jets? Corners are banged up. What do you think about George Pickens versus the Rams?
Yeah, I was just
the
going to
Jets
ask
this week.
What's the status on their corners? Are they supposed to be active, fully? I mean,
yeah, I believe they are both. I can double check while you're thinking through it, but I think they should both be in.
I definitely like Pickens. I think Pickens gets a boost with Russ as the starter. I think this helps Pickens more than it helps anybody else. against the Jets isn't the best time to start and pick, and like whether
True.
Russ is going to have like his rust, like where you're like kicking that off a little bit in his first matchup back. I don't love that. So I mean, unless we're talking like Sauce is out or like they're missing a couple of their corners, I think I'm probably tempering it this week just because we need to see what Russ is going to do. I like this for Pickens long-term rest of season, but I don't think I'm rolling the dice on it this week because it could be a thing where Russ comes out and gets benched in the second half or has like 150 yards in the game. So that scares me.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, but I think Russ also comes in and kind of makes it a point, right, to kind of get him the ball. We've still heard Pickens be relatively outspoken with it, and I think again of the two quarterbacks, Russ is going to elevate Pickens more than Fields did, simply for the accuracy standpoint of all of it too. So I think it's very iffy, and probably as a flex, I feel comfortable with it, but certainly, like you said, for the other ones, I don't feel great about it.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just going to leave it as is. I don't want to sit him up or sit him down. I'll let you guys make your decision. Next one for you, Demario Douglas starting to have a little mini breakout with the Patriots versus Jacksonville. Overseas this week, so essentially great matchup, but the main thing comes down to, are you trusted in Drake May? So Demario Douglas versus Jacksonville over in London this week.
Yeah, he's gotten so many targets the last couple of weeks. I mean, especially last week with May, like he's looking his way a ton. I don't really believe in any other options there yet. I mean, I know they've got Polk and they've got Mr. Viking from last year.
KJ Hamler.
Yeah, thank you, Osborne. I know they've got other options.
What did I say?
But
Hamler.
KJ Hamler.
KJ Osborne.
But yeah, I
I'm
think
a Broncos fan.
I think he's going to get the volume. So I mean, whether it transitions to a lot or not, I don't know. But going against a basically like bottom number 32 defense in Jacksonville, I think this could be kind of interesting. And it's the same thing you talked about, where I think May is just going to be like, this is my chance to kind of find the guys that at least can do something with the ball. Stevenson's still banged up, all that. So yeah, I don't mind Demario Douglas more than I would have thought when I started talking about it. I'm in for him this week. Yeah.
Suit up!
I'm with you. I think he was my stamp to start the year for the person who's going to lead on that team. He's a great slot guy. He's second year into the system, so I just think he's started to build that rapport, and that's really what you have to do with the rookie quarterbacks. Is they kind of gravitate to the, hey, who's making plays for me, and that was Demario Douglas. So I think we see that really shine against obviously one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL, and the Jags. Last one for you. This one's more name recognition, but he's been absolutely brutal. So how much are you trusting Calvin Ridley versus the Bills this week? It's been brutal. He had 24.7 week 2, but since then, 1.9, 2.5, and 0.9. He had 9 rushing yards and no catches this last week too. So he's still feeling confident in Ridley versus the Bills this week.
I've been a big anti-Ridley guy for several years, so I don't know if I've ever felt confident in him. I think my confidence remains at the number of catches he had last week, which is a 0. Yeah. So I get they're probably going to be behind in Buffalo or versus Buffalo. I get they'll probably be throwing a lot. So, I mean, it's going to be a make or break if he catches one deep bomb for a touchdown. And I could be totally wrong, but I don't want to rely on that in most games other than like a best ball type of thing. So I am pretty confidently out on him unless he strings like 2+ weeks together and starts getting some like 3+ catches in a game type of thing. So I'm very good on the sit down this week.
Now sit down and shut up.
Yep, 100% with you. There's no question for me. He just hasn't shown it enough, not only himself, but Levis just hasn't been good enough, consistent enough too. There's something on Twitter going around to show his 8 targets that he got the last week. Yeah. That was the most ridiculous 8 targets. It was, I don't know who does targeting, but and who decides what a target is for somebody, but 6 of those weren't within 8 yards of him. So I don't know how you could call it a target. It was really bad. It's fun to go back and look at. I can't remember who tweeted it. If I do, I'll send it out. But it's really bad. There's just not enough consistency there for you to feel confident with it. And on top of Pollard being great and Tajay Spears starting to get a little healthier, Hop there as well, taking stuff, Will Levis just hasn't been good enough.
Yeah. And really quick, my super suit is Pop Douglas apparently this week versus Jacksonville. I talked myself into it as we were going because every other person basically plays a tough defense. So they're the only one that has an easy matchup, so we'll see. But that's my stamp for the ones if you're really hemming and hawing on who to start and who to sit. All right, moving into another one, a little bit of league specific insights, aka the vent session. So we got some how you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
Oh man, so, I'll start. So I'll start so then you can rant.
Go ahead before I get upset.
No, mine's pretty straightforward. My teams that are non-dynasty are doing really well. So I'm in first in a handful of leagues in our FFPC that I haven't talked about much across our couple leagues that we've done. I think we're in first and second of the two, so can't do much better than that. So it's been good for anything non-dynasty. So Jack texted me earlier and he goes, maybe you're more of a sprint guy. And I think you're right. I clearly don't like the marathons. I'm not good. I get too antsy. I make terrible trades and I get bored with a dynasty. So redrafts are going well across the board, and dynasty, not so much. We're in tank mode for both of those. So you won't hear anything about dynasty for me for the rest of the year.
Yeah, this was a bad week for me, pretty across the board. I survived in Gilly and am doing great in that, and keeping the undefeated start to the season going in the main dynasty league. But beyond that, it was bad in the leagues that we're in, the leagues that we're not in together. It was across the board. So the biggest one for me, I biatch about this every single week. So another week, another heartbreak loss for me. It came down to a kicker once again, and it happened on Monday Night Football once again. So I just had that sliver of hope where I was winning and had a chance, and then they played bad, and I was like, oh my God, maybe I really actually do have a chance, and then I lost anyway. So yeah, that's just kind of how the season's going. I think I'm 6th or 7th overall in points, but I'm first in points against, and I still am missing my 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 6th or 8th round picks. So it's just been rough. We're trying to string people together, and like 3 weeks now I've had no one active on the bench to play. So I think that's pretty much about it. I finally lost my first week in best ball with a quarterback, so there's that too. But I think we're still up there in like top 3, so I'm not super worried. But
you're welcome for that, by the way.
Yeah, you big meanie.
which is also fun for me, and I was gonna say, which is also fun for me because it was because of Dalton Kincaid. I know you didn't know that, so I just wanted to get your reaction from that, because I was down by like 5 or 6 coming into it, and Kincaid's my only tight end because I had Taysom and he was obviously out, so he had like 2 catches for 10 yards at halftime and finished with 7 for 70 and took the win from Jack in the second half. So he didn't even know that until now. So that was fun.
Despite that, I'm still in 2nd and Tyler is in 4th. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people tied at 4 and 2. So this is a bananas. And nice. The top 6 make it. So literally 5 of the 6, and then Al's 1 game above us. So it's a very top half, bottom half type of league. But
yeah.
It's less stressful because I can't mess it up by making moves, but it's also more stressful because I can't make moves. Speaking of leagues that are way more fun, the Gilly section. So those of you that are in Guillotine leagues, we're doing this again as kind of a broad scope thing versus our own league, though we both still are surviving and alive as of now. So that's what matters. The top 10 most cut players last week across all hundreds of Guillotine leagues: Brian Robinson, Mike Evans, Travis Etienne, Justin Jefferson, James Cook, Zach Moss, Chris Olave, Dallas Goedert, Dak Prescott, and Marvin Harrison Jr. So a lot of big names in there this week. I mean, you're going to have that in every Guillotine because that's the most rostered players. But any initial thoughts on like 1 or 2 of those guys?
Yeah, they all make sense. They all make sense. Brian Robinson out. Michael Evans, Marshawn Lattimore, Etienne fumbled, went to the doghouse. Jefferson bye. Cook hurt. Zach Moss hurt. Olave hurt. Goddard hurt. Dak played horrible. And then MHJ hurt. So, I mean, like every single one of those people, they were all likely started or, again, obviously on bye. So they make sense. But some of these are the type of guys that you just go get at this point in the year. Yeah. You're probably pretty comfortable. We're a third of the way through in Gilly, but some of these guys are staples. You can throw Mike Evans in every single week. He's never going to be Godwin high volume in full PPR, so don't go crazy. But somebody like Justin Jefferson, if he got cut, you have to go out there and try to get him. Travis Etienne, I'd be a little bit more careful on, because when he gets in, he has had fumbling issues in the past, and they have no issue putting him in the doghouse. And Tank Bigsby has looked just fine, so don't go too crazy with that one. James Cook, turf toe is kind of a continuous thing. It's not like, oh, hey, I'm healthy from turf toe. It kind of lingers the whole year. So obviously a staple for you probably for the rest of the year. So I would do a normal bid, whatever you want to look at for that. But to just know that he could still miss this week as well.
Mm-hmm.
Olave I'm out on. He was my buy guy. He was my fade, and that's looking correct for me. I just don't see it with him.
The Marvin Harrison one could be very interesting because there's probably a handful of leagues where Michael Wilson's maybe not rostered currently. Your boy has him. That's the only reason I'm talking about him. But I think there's probably some where people hadn't been holding on to him. And you can go and grab him and like maybe pay up a little bit more for like a 1 week rental if you're kind of on the cut bubble. And he should be very, very interesting this week because he did solid when Marvin Harrison went out early last week. So real quick, buys this week, the Bears and the Cowboys. So if you're the Caleb Williams or like myself, Roma Dunze, Rico Dowdle owners,
Swift,
CD, like those all big guys. Ferguson, hopefully you kind of pivoted to having a cheaper tight end option like a week or two ago with his buy coming up. The nice thing is next week, there's no buys. So like start looking ahead to who's on week 9 buys and maybe make those plans to bid for tomorrow, for next week kind of thing. Get ahead of those early. But so we don't have any like notable bids because we kind of covered those on Friday already. But really quick, we don't have to go through like our whole teams and stuff, but are you feeling like a spender or a sit backer kind of this week, or what are you thinking?
I'm probably pretty comfortable. The individuals who got cut in our league, nothing really stood out to me. And my team's been playing really well, so I've got some PPR monsters on there. Again, granted, a few of them are on bye. I've got CD on a bye. I've got DeAndre Swift on a bye. And now I've got Garrett Wilson as well. But I think my team is good enough that I don't have to go crazy. And again, there's nobody that really got cut that I'm like, I got to jump and go get somebody to fill my team this week. I can fill it in with some sub players and be just fine, in my opinion.
Yeah, my only spicy ones, I guess, is like I said, I'm doing the Michael Wilson plan this week as of now if I don't get anybody. And then I'm starting Tyler Algier in a flex, which isn't the worst thing in the world. He's getting
good with that.
Blow up last week, but he's getting work just like he did last year, even with Bijan. So those are those kind of guys that you plug in that you'd be like throwing up if you have to start him in a regular league. Got Tank Bigsby also. So, I mean, that works out in the meantime with ETN out 2 to 3 weeks. But kind of just do what you need to do sometimes in Guillotine to start the gross players for a week or two. So
I'm gonna start Nick Chubb. How's that?
Yeah, I mean, and Ford's probably out, so I mean, that could be kind of interesting. All right, moving into some DFS Faceoff. I like this section.
No,
yeah, Jack's back.
I don't want to play again.
Jack blew Tyler out of the water last week, 144 to 139.
Okay,
so, and neither of us were even top 2 in scoring. So there's only like 5.
We're literally 4th and 5th out of 5.
Yeah,
it was bad.
Not ideal. We had a few crossovers, so I guess if you want to tell the folks at home whatever shot you're doing, I'll.
Oh yeah, I got that. I'll let you do your thing. But this week we're gonna go with a little Bacardi Limon. It's been a hot minute. That sounds absolutely terrible, but
I hope it's nice and warm and not chilled whatsoever. That's the key with Bacardi Limon.
Yes, if it's warm, your boy ain't doing it.
So we had some crossover with some key guys past week that I talked about, but Tony Pollard got us both 17, Drake London got us both 19, and the Bucks D got us both 17. So anything we were on the same line on did well. Key like position matchups wise, we both had a couple of duds relatively speaking across the board, but it seemed to come down to like my expensive options, the guys I paid up for, and Derrick Henry and Bijan doing well, while Tyler spent up for CD and he just did not quite do what he was hoping. So Tyler taking that down like a champ.
Good Lord. I forgot how terrible doing shots is. I remember why I try to win these.
Yeah. I've had to do 4 losses
plus
and
2
and 6 total shots. So it's rough. And then as far as last week's mentions that we talked about on the podcast, ones that we had some success stories, I talked about Fields and Love. Those ended up being each Tyler and my quarterback, 23 points and 26. Pollard, 17.8, like I mentioned. Drake London, like I mentioned, 19.4. And then Zach Ertz, Tyler had him in there, but I talked about him as a cheap option. He had 10.5, so we'll take that. Week 7 early thoughts. I'll just give my couple per position here, and if you have any thoughts, feel free. Otherwise, we'll just keep it going. But as far as quarterback, my streamer of the week, Andy Dalton, only 5,200 versus Washington. They got the bad defense. They got the offense that should put up a lot versus Carolina, so they're going to throw from behind. Or if you want a little bit safer, we got Kirk Cousins at 6,300 versus Seattle, who also isn't anything to write home about on defense. Running backs wise, we got, again, staying in the Panthers-Washington game, 6,500 for Chua Hubbard. at least for one more week. Jonathan Brooks is still being held out. Chuba's getting all the work. He had 18 for 92 on the ground last week and then 5 more catches. So continues to be utilized in the receiving game, which is helping his value a lot. Tony Pollard, again, just keeps hovering around that like 6,000-ish mark. I'll just keep putting him in my lineup pretty much every week. I think the reports are that Tyjae Spears is out for 2 to 3 weeks with a hamstring injury. So, I mean, Pollard's going to get even more work now. And then real gross options, but San Fran, if Jordan Mason does miss, which it sounds like he's kind of questionable, should maybe be playing at this point, but if he does miss, we got Isaac Guerrero at 6,600, which seems pretty high. I feel like that's higher than Jordan Mason's been in some weeks, but then also there's Patrick Taylor at 5,200, who Guerrero has all the explosiveness and looked really good last week, but Taylor only had 1 less carry and touch than Guerrero did last week, so I think that might be a little bit more surprising split than people expect. So if you're trying to find ways to save money at running back, that might be an option. Receivers wise, really quick, Jordan Addison 5,600 versus Detroit, much cheaper than Jefferson, and seems like he's kind of that like touchdown guy in the big shootout game. So love that versus Detroit this week. Darnell Mooney, kind of the same thing as the Justin Jefferson mini me. We got the Drake London mini me, but Mooney's at 5,600. And then Juju Smith-Schuster, I mean, they were on a bye last week, but he had all the targets for the Chiefs the week before. So being only at 4,000, if you just believe there's a chance that there's going to be somebody that's leading the team in receptions versus spreading around 4 targets for everybody, Juju at 4,000 seems pretty cheap, especially going against the 49ers. And then lastly, at tight end, I didn't even put any other cheaper options because Brock Bowers was one of the higher ones, but he's only at 5,800. They're against the Rams, who are bad, and Devontae's gone, so that seems very underpriced, and I don't know how I won't have him as my tight end. I'll probably start with him and then build out from there because that seems so easy to me. So, any quick thoughts on those?
No, I love most of those. I think Juju's a massive one. Essentially what you're going for in DFS, for those that don't know, you're pretty much trying to 3x their value. So if somebody's at like 4,000, you're trying to get, if you get 12 points out of them, you're doing something incredibly well. So if you think about that in a full PPR league, that's like 6 for 60. That's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. And if somebody gets in the end zone like that, you're doing awesome. So most individuals fall in like 2.1 to whatever 2.9 value for that. So that's why it's hard to justify some of those bigger salary guys. But somebody like Juju, you're not hoping for a lot because that allows you to spend up elsewhere. So I think that's a great call. And then I love Mooney as well. Stacking him with somebody like Cousins just allows you to go so much higher at running back or tight end. So Bowers with Devontae gone, he instantly becomes the number 1 target there. Remember, Jacoby's likely out as well. So I think that just reinforces that. And Brock Bowers is going to now lead the team in receptions. There's not many teams in the NFL that can say their tight end is going to lead their team in receptions. The Chiefs,
easily,
occasionally, maybe, now that Rashee Rice is out, and the Raiders is about it. So I love Bowers now and forever. Go Dogs.
Yeah, facts. All right, moving into last couple sections here. We got Dynasty downloads. So just our quick little section to talk about anything Dynasty if we've got stuff. Not going to be anything every week, but we try to toss them in. So this week, I, as always, like to toss out a keep trade cut for Tyler. So I got one. We're kind of keeping in the trend of last week with the heavy hitters, but we got DK Metcalf, a 2026 early first, so not next year, but we're talking 2 years out. We'll say, you're assuming they're probably going to be a top 4 pretty easily. They could be 1, they could be 4, who knows at this point. And then the jersey I'm rocking tonight, Devon Achane. How are we ranking the keep trade cut for these 3? I know you're big on the receivers in Dynasty above all, but is Metcalf enough over the explosiveness of Achane or a 2-year waiting first rounder?
Probably not. I think just with the explosive ability and on top of it, the rest of the Dolphins backfield being aged and Wilson and Mostert, he's obviously already gotten the work. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I guess he's still there too, but I just think Achane is so explosive. He's got to be up around like the running back 2, 3, 4 in Dynasty. If I would be my guess. Shortly. And Metcalf again. I love Metcalf, but in that offense, it's just so run heavy, and the Dolphins' explosiveness when Tua comes back, in my opinion, he will come back, is going to be so much greater than it is now. So you're probably getting a discount on Achane right now. I mean, what, he probably down to like running back 7?
He's running back 8 right now, which seems much lower. Like, he's below Jonathan Taylor, which I don't think is accurate. He's currently below
Agreed.
Kenneth Walker and Kyron Williams, which Kyron I know has started out really hot, but I still would take Walker. I would take Achane in a fully healthy, explosive Dolphins offense. Kenneth Walker, I think, is kind of like, I feel like him and Achane have flip-flopped, for like Walker's a little bit overvalued and Achane's a little bit undervalued. So, and then it's the top 3 and Saquon, which I don't have any issues being above him, but yeah.
Yeah,
So.
I'm with you. I'm taking Achane over Kenneth Walker as well. So I'm going to keep Achane. As far as between Metcalf and a 2026 early first, I kind of like. So for those that don't know, Devi is essentially all the way college. You could draft college players as well.
I would love to try that. Yeah,
it's called Devi rankings. So there's Devi rankings on Keep Trade Cut if you want to see what future guys look like. You can go to see their eligibility for when they're eligible to be drafted and come out. Some people, again, go back to school, like the Emeka Egbuka's was slated to come out in 2025, but didn't. He went back to school and so on and so forth. So you can see the year they're eligible to come out. But looking at 2026, it's pretty low unless you're in a super flex league, because that's when like Arch Manning is going to come out, and he's going to be obviously probably I shouldn't say obviously, he's going to be the super flex 101 there. But some of the other ones aren't great. It's honestly 2025 and is going to be a pretty big year for running back. So I'm still going to. I know this is a long-winded way to say I'm still going to keep Metcalf, and I'm going to cut the 2026 early first, even though it's top 4. So I don't hate the argument for keeping the first and cutting Metcalf, but overall, or trading Metcalf. But overall, I'm going to keep Achane. I'm going to trade Metcalf just because, again, I think you can get something for the name still, and then I'm going to cut the 2026 early first.
Yeah, I think I agree with all 3 of those. I thought I would get you with doing because I know you like to go with receiver over running back typically in Dynasty, so I thought I would get you too, but I'm also a big Achane guy, obviously. So I thought maybe I'd be a little higher on it. But yeah, Achane's the easy cut for me just because I think maybe preseason he might have been the trade just because his value was so high.
It was.
But now his value's under where I'm not selling him for that. And it kind of just boils down to, like, I know you can usually get more for first. Maybe if this was a next year first instead of 2 years out, I'd go that route just to try to trade him. But if I was the Metcalf owner and somebody offered me a first in 2 years, I wouldn't take that because Metcalf's probably got several years left of being great or good, if not great, because of JSN's development, whatever. So long story short, I'm with you there. We have several trades in Dynasty that happened recently. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to basically like read them out and give you like 10 seconds to just give your maybe like grade or who won, who lost, or how like even it is, if it's a 50-50 kind of thing. Yeah. We'll go from there. I didn't put yours or mine in yet, so we can maybe save those for next week or not talk about our own and why we won or lost and stuff. But other people's, just to shout them out in case they listen.
I don't really remember what mine was.
Yours was the Glick with Cooper Kupp and Swift for picks and Chandler and stuff. So, but anyway, we had Josh actually just tonight get Max first, which is likely a late one, and my second, which is likely a late one also, in exchange for Mac getting Devontae Adams and Glick's late second. So essentially we kind of cancel out the seconds, assuming Mac and Glick finish close to each other, and it's basically just Max first for Devontae Adams. So thoughts?
I don't mind it just for team context, and obviously those that aren't in the league, it's going to make less sense for them. But Mac is competing now. He's going for the championship now, and his team is really good.
Old.
And his team is old. Too. It's good, but old. So in that context, it certainly makes sense. Essentially, you're trading, like you said, a late first round pick for Devontae to be in win now mode. So it's really not bad. I think it's even on both sides because Josh isn't out here competing, and he was able to essentially flip an aging Devontae Adams for even a first round pick. So I think it made sense for both sides. So I don't hate it.
I will say, like, just to add into that, I will give Josh an extra shout out because that's super nice, like, return on value for him. But that's not to say that Mac was dumb for it because it makes sense. It's the only time that would make sense, trading away a first for Devontae because of what Mac's situation is. So, I won't belabor that anymore. But then we also had Foster and Jordan doing a little trade here. So Foster got Terry McLaurin and Jordan's third, likely probably mid to early third now, for Jordan getting Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I've just always been a bigger Scary Terry fan than I think a lot of other individuals. And for me, I like Xavier Worthy, but I still think he's going to get buried in KC. T. Kelsey is still going to play a couple more years. Rashee Rice is going to be back eventually. Granted, from all the stuff that I've heard, they're with, again, reminder that there's probably going to be a suspension coming next year because it's not happening this year. So he could certainly develop that rapport, but it's really close. You're just kind of betting on youth here. But Xavier Worthy still feels more of like the Jameson Williams deep ball guy, which obviously that can work out, but sometimes it takes a while to come to fruition. So I think I'm going to take McLaurin in the third, but I could see why somebody would go Worthy.
And I get it with Jordan because I think he's kind of made the decision in the last 2 weeks that he's now going to switch to rebuilding. He was kind of on the bubble before. And so for this, he's kind of just trying to unload guys. McLaurin's not going to really help him long term if this is the plan in like a couple of years before he's really bouncing back again. I guess for context too, you're looking at it as Worthy was like preseason, he was valued as like a mid first round pick. So you basically traded McLaurin at a late or a mid third for a mid first. So like in that value, I don't hate it. I just personally am not a big Worthy believer, but I get it with like my only caveat would be like, I wonder if you could have gotten more from McLaurin from another contender, but I don't hate it for like what you're trying to do. And if like teams fit, if somebody had like a young player to give that made sense for you, because like, I might have been able to give him more from McLaurin, but like, are any of my guys young and make sense for him rebuild wise? The value might be there, but the team build might not make sense. So
yeah, agreed. I think getting the young guy is the key for Jordan here, and why it makes sense, because I don't know that you're going to get much more for McLaurin. I mean, obviously being connected to Jaden Daniels always feels great. But
I may have tried to target, like if you're in a different league, see who the Jaden owner is and try to see if they're interested in the stack. I think it's Joe in our league, and he's obviously not a contender either, so Terry probably doesn't make sense for him.
True.
Cool. I like to do that if I have a player that I'm trying to move that's aged. I look for their, like I have Diggs, and I was immediately like, Mac, you interested in Diggs? Like, let's talk about this because at least you've got the Stroud stack. Maybe we can make it something happen. Anyways, last one here to talk about. Foster also made another move, getting from Jordan. They're just trading with each other only. Let us in on the party. Foster got Kelsey and DeAndre Swift from Jordan for Ty Chandler, Foster's third, his own third back from the Worthy McLaurin trade, and Foster's 2026 first. So 2 mid thirds and probably a mid to later first in 2 years. The 2 thirds are this year, and Ty Chandler. It's a lot of pieces.
That's a really hard one to value, because again, Kelsey's got like 2 years left. Swift seems to have turned it around and starting to play incredibly well. Foster's going for it. He's like, I'm gonna win. And
I love seeing more people get into like
great
the group.
So I think it certainly makes sense for him. I do feel like Jordan could probably got a little bit more, just with Swift having played. With Swift playing so well, and Kelsey
Swift,
again. Yeah, well, Kelsey and Swift, for that matter, just both playing so well currently, being able to put them both in a package, I think he could have got a little bit more. So I probably lean Foster on this side, but again, it's always so much easier to say, hey, these are the proven players. But if Foster doesn't win it all, or he gets into the playoffs and loses first round, and now all of a sudden that's the 107, it feels much better on Jordan's side. So it's like, just because you make the playoffs, you lose in first round, that instantly becomes a mid-first really fast. So this one's going to take some time to play out, but for now, I think I like it just for Foster going for it. He's got his pieces to make his run at it.
I'll just play the other side again and just say I like it for Jordan's too, just because you're moving off on players that aren't going to be usable for you until your team is good again. So I think like Ty Chandler is an interesting throw-in piece, because if Aaron Jones doesn't come back after this 1-year contract, like maybe we keep him versus getting another young running back option. The 2/3 aren't much, but getting a couple extra dart throws is nice, because you can get those, like, maybe you get your QB shot when nobody's taking QB early in a 1 QB league, or load up on extra receiver depth or whatever. And then the first, you got to wait 2 years, but I mean, I don't think you would have probably gotten a first for Kelsey most other places anyway. So having that in as like the cornerstone of the piece is really nice. Like, Swift might be nothing in a year. They might switch to Roshan with the way that they're utilizing him. Kelsey, like you said, might have a year or two. So I don't hate it for just like several picks at that point. I would have loved him to have gone with my trade. That was the second one and in consideration, and he didn't do that, but that's okay. I forgive you, kind of. So mostly just because I'm just frustrated with my tight end position, but I digress. Now, we didn't even talk about this, but like very quick blurb. I'm kind of in on Njoku rest of season now with getting Amari Cooper out of the way. I don't hate that. That could be
It's
interesting.
not bad. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Go trade for him, like coming off the injury. We haven't seen him play in a bit, so owners might be lower on him than they will be in like a week or two if he gets all the targets. So
he could be on a waiver wire. I 100%.
For redraft especially, yeah. I was just thinking dynasty wise, like you could maybe kind of fix that. But yeah, redraft wise, wouldn't be surprised. So anyways, we're running long on time, so I'll rattle through the waiver targets here. I guess, Tyler, if you want to do quarterback and I'll do running back, we just alternate really quick.
Yeah, we'll go fast with these. I know we cut out other pieces and then we talked long on other pieces. So that's how Jack and I do
find
things.
a way.
We really do. QB really just 2 targets. Obviously, we talked about them both already. Andy Dalton, it's only 15% owned still, which is kind of bonkers to me. Against Washington, perfect streaming option for anybody. Same thing, Drake May, 15% versus Jacksonville. So those are 100% top 2 streamers for for this week. For wide receiver, Michael Wilson, only 28% owned. Again, when Marvin Harrison went out, he really started to get the target, 6+ targets each of the last 3 weeks. And Marvin Harrison, again, concussion, so likely misses this week too. Bubba Means, both Olave and Shaheed possibly out. He had 8 targets from Spencer Rattler. So he went 5 for 45 at a touchdown. And then we talked about Juju as well. 7 for 9 for 130 last week off the bye week. We'll see if he gets more involved here.
All right, moving into running backs, we got several. So I'll just try to rattle them off quickly. But the big one, Ray Davis, 18% owned. Took the lead job from Ty Johnson on Monday night with Cookout. Went off for 20 for 97 and 3 for 55. So combining for 150 yards across ground and air. Isaac Rendo, we talked about, he's got the 4.33 speed. So if Mason's out, could be very interesting. He's only 5% owned, so you don't probably want to drop the bank on him, but a speculative ad. He went 10 for 99 last week, including that 70+ yard scamper where he went down, would have been a touchdown. Ty Chandler, not a lot of success this season, but he's had flashes last year, and then he's the next man up if Aaron Jones happens to still stay out for a week or two, even post-bye. Sean Tucker, really like that one. He's basically 0% owned. Breakout last week with Bucky Irving. Tucker went 14 for 136 and 1, plus 3 for 56 and another score. Assuming Rashad White also still out. It's a tough defense versus Baltimore. You got Bucky Irving in there too, but I think he's worth the ad to see if the team starts to go towards those younger 2 guys more. And then Kamani Vidal, 16% owned. This is kind of speculative because J.K. Dobbins is still there and the Chargers offense isn't explosive, but Gus Edwards just got put on IR and he looked good last week. So could be another guy that's maybe like a longer term season play. Receivers, you want to do that one?
Oh, I already did receivers.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Tight ends, though.
I'll do tight ends. Yeah. All right. Zach Ertz, 36%, 13 targets over the last 2 games, and he has Carolina this week, so I really like that one. It's kind of a not flashy, exciting, low upside, but probably safe pick. And then Cade Otton, 42%. He's had 7 targets over his last 4 weeks per game, so I mean he's getting the volume there. Not been explosive, but he has a really good, favorable upcoming tight end schedule. So kind of liking that for more just matchup play. And then really quick, as far as my pal, Catalina Wine Mixer pickup of the week, trying to shoot for like that less than 30%. I was back and forth between Sean Tucker and the guy I'm going to pick. I'm going to go with Ray Davis just because I think he was like the clear back guy, whereas Sean Tucker at worst, or at best, I should say, still has to deal with Bucky Irving on top of possibly Rashad White. But Ray Davis, I still believe in Cook. Obviously, he was my guy for the running back room, but the big breakout performance, Ray Davis being a rookie, so like it's kind of always that like a guy could be more legit than you realize if they break out early and young. Even if it becomes like a 70-30 split and Cook gets most of the work, I think in this Buffalo offense, now also adding Amari Cooper, there's that touchdown upside at least. So I think this is an offense where it's worth having the backup guy. So I'd go and get him now before he skyrockets, especially if Cook for some reason has his injury linger. So
fair enough.
Speaking of injuries, take it away.
Oh, man. I'll run through the quarterbacks and wide receivers, and then Jack will take running backs and tight ends again. So Richardson, he's still got the oblique injury, kind of that surprise inactive last week. I said he was going to play. I really did think he was going to play, but now he's expected to return. But really, thankfully, he's the only QB. And then just of note and a reminder, Russ is taking first-team reps, so he's healthy and likely going to start again for the Steelers. Wide receivers, Marvin Harrison Jr., concussion, doubtful this week. We normally miss like 1 week to go through concussion protocol. Olave, same thing, concussion. Saints Thursday Night Football against the Broncos, so he's out. Rashid Shaheed, same thing, injured his knee late in the fourth quarter, and they said he's expected to miss some time. So he's questionable, and again, Thursday Night Football, but doubtful for this week. Cooper Kupp, ankle, reports that he's finally possibly ready to return. They said week 7 was always going to be the target. I will not be surprised if they hold him out one more week, and it's week 8. It's going to be pretty close for this one. Neighbors concussion. He still hasn't gone through protocol, and again, he's already missed these last 2 weeks. So it's going to be interesting. He's one to keep your eye on all the way up and to and through, but hopefully he can clear concussion protocol and play again this week against Philly. And then Dontavian Wicks, shoulder injury. He's expected to at least miss a couple weeks.
Deep breath here. A lot of running back injuries. James Cook with the toe, surprised inactive on Monday Night Football. He's questionable. It sounds like he's trending towards playing, so we'll see there. Aaron Jones with the hip injury. He left week 5, but then we had the bye week and rest. He's already been back at practice as of yesterday and just was limited, so trending well. We'll see what happens. Jonathan Taylor, ankle. He missed the last 2 weeks. People kind of expect him to only be out 1, but he's still been out. Should return this week. If not next week, the ankle injury seems to kind of linger, unfortunately. So someone else to watch if Trey Sermon gets one more start. Rashad White, we talked about, foot injury. He missed last week. Don't be surprised if they hold him out one more just because they've had success with the other 2 running backs and they don't need him in there yet. Travis Etienne and Tyjae Spears, both hamstrings, projected to miss anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. So stocks up for Tank Bigsby and Tony Pollard, basically as the 1-2 punches in those backfield. We talked about earlier, but Nick Chubb, he's expected to return this week, and it coincides with Jerome Ford being out. So all of a sudden, I think they probably wanted to ease him in a little bit more, but I'm pretty sure the Browns are just throwing in the towel. So why not give Chubb all the work? If he's out there, I was like, don't be surprised if teams that don't have an IR spot or leagues that don't, he might be still available on waivers. So go grab him if anything else. Just on the chance that he's healthy and back to 70% of what he was could be interesting. And then also Jordan Mason had the AC joint sprain on Thursday Night Football, but he had 3 extra days to recover because of that early game. So questionable. It sounds like he's trending towards playing. It's kind of just like a pain thing. It doesn't sound like he can injure it more than he already has. So I would expect him to be out there versus the Chiefs, but maybe kind of tempering your expectations a little bit for the heavy workload it's been. So maybe a Debo game. Maybe we get some more rushes in the backfield with him there. And then tight ends wise, Taysom Hill, rib injury still. He did return to limited practice, so hopefully he's not your guy you're banking on, but sounds like he's coming back to ruin Alvin Kamara owners' days. And then tight end TJ Hawkinson from the Vikings, knee injury from last year, obviously. Been out all season on IR. The 21-day practice window has been open, so not expecting him to come back this week, though that would be sick versus the Lions if he was healthy.
That'd be awesome.
But it's pretty much guarantees within the next 3 weeks that he's going to be back next 3 games, so that's exciting stuff. That's it for injuries wise. Mount Rushmore, normally what we do for the draft segment. We're not doing that this week because we already had plenty to talk about, and we're going to get into it next week. So again, still going to be on best pump up songs, lock up songs, kind of what stuff gets you going in the mood or in the excitement for the game. So if you have any ideas for that, feel free to toss them out and let us know ahead of time, or otherwise we'll get our teams posted next week. Yeah, that's all I got. Tyler, send us home, wrap it up.
Man, we are so good at talking. That's all I have to say. So I appreciate everybody who listens this long. I know I know we like to belabor points sometimes, but we had a lot to talk about this week. There was a lot of injuries and a lot of stuff. So appreciate the listens as always. I got a few more shorts that are going to come out early this week. So now we've had a full week. We know he missed us after a couple days, so I wanted to get back to our regularly scheduled programming. So everybody, good luck in week 7 and enjoy a London game between the Jaguars and the Patriots if you can. But hey, it's early morning football, so everybody enjoy week 7. Hopefully the leagues are still going well, but until next time, Pop Squad, peace out.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Brotherly Ballers podcast. Check out more content on youtube.com/@thebrotherlyballers.